I digress. Okay, so we're going to be going over just some common mistakes that I see when tracking food. And when I say mistakes, not necessarily mistakes, but maybe areas of improvement or some areas that you may be missing that could be throwing off your entire nutrition plan. And as I'm sure you're aware, your nutrition is like 80% of this whole fitness thing. So super important. And we do want to be pretty meticulous with it. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a little PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So we just have four, kind of broke them up into four different categories, but I definitely want to make sure to keep track of these. And also, if you want to take a little picture of this screen here or of any screen, and if you post it on your Instagram story, tag me, tag Sheena, tag Frequency. That will go towards the points that we're adding up for the 21-day challenge. It's also our only form of marketing, help support a small business. We love it. We appreciate it. All right. Yeah. So the first and biggest mistake that I see a lot of people making, and I'm not even going to lie, there's definitely some days where I fall into this category as well. We're not going to be perfect every day, but we're striving for progress and we're striving to at least understand where our downfalls are. So first of all, if you're just winging it, basically not pre-logging your food. So, let's say you're new in this 21-day challenge and we're tracking your calories and your protein. And the way that we're going about that is you're eating your food and then you're going into MyFitnessPal and you're logging your food afterwards. That's only going to get you so far. That's great. That is definitely going to be tracking food. However, is that going to be hitting your nutritional goals that you have as far as hitting your calorie and your protein goals? So just going throughout the day with no plan of how to execute your macros. This will require just one extra thought ahead of time, right? Pre-planning your food, or else you'll end up not hitting your calorie goal, not hitting your protein goal if you track all three macros. And you'll probably just be way over one. Maybe you'll be way over on your fats or way under on your protein. And then it's just kind of like, again, that's cool that we did track your food, but the actual benefit is to actually hit the nutrition plan that you have in place, right? A game plan only works if it's executed. Like the plan only works if you actually follow through and hit these numbers. I see this happen a lot with clients, even after a couple of weeks or a couple of months. It's like, okay, we've gotten the skill of tracking, which I'll give it to you, especially if you're in the 21-day challenge. That itself takes a while. So don't beat yourself up, okay, if you're not hitting your numbers specifically. The first step truly is just understanding how to measure your food, how to use the app, how to track it. But step two, where we actually start gaining momentum, is if you're hitting your numbers. The next biggest mistake is just not having well-balanced meals. And I know that can be a pretty vague term. So I'm going to dive into what does well-balanced mean. Basically avoid a meal or even a snack. When I say meals, first of all, I would really encourage, if you're not, if you're somebody who identifies as like a snacker, or I just like snack throughout the day, I graze throughout the day, I would really encourage you to start to shift that and break that habit and truly eat meals. And each of those meals containing the three macros, protein, carbs, and fats, or at least not just one. Try not to have something that is like just protein. Like if you're eating just plain chicken, I would not consider that a full meal. I would not consider that a well-balanced meal. Try not to have something that's just fats, maybe just avocado or just guacamole or something. Then try not to have something that's just fats and carbs, maybe chips and guac. Try to have something that has all three: protein, a carb source, and a fat source at each meal, at your breakfast, at your lunch, at your dinner, and then even throughout your snack, if you have snacks throughout the day. So let's say you have like some cottage cheese. Maybe let's add a banana into the cottage cheese, maybe some maple syrup if you like it sweet, or maybe put it on a slice of toast. That way we're getting our protein, our carbs, and our fats. Knowing how to structure your meals, or your plate, I should say. So being able to look at your plate and recognize, this is my protein source, this is my carb source, and this is my fat source. And or when I say fat source, so when I say making a plate, the terms I use is more of like protein, carbs, and veggie, because ideally you'll probably be getting your fats from maybe the oils it was cooked in, especially if you're ordering from a restaurant. If you're ordering from a restaurant, you probably don't need to go out of your way to order something with fats. You probably should choose a leaner protein source, maybe tuna or chicken instead of salmon, right? Salmon is that fattier protein source, because we can pretty much assume that at restaurants are cooking everything in oil, including the meats, including the veggies. So when we're building a plate or looking at a plate, we want to have some kind of veggie source, some kind of protein source, and some kind of carb source. And when I say carb, we're ideally going for complex carbs like rice, potatoes, beans, whole grains, quinoa, things like that. Simple carbs aren't terrible either. There's definitely a time and place for those, but complex carbs will have more nutrients and vitamins and fiber along with it. So I know I'm throwing a lot of words at you, but just making sure that your plate has those three things checked off. The biggest mistake I see as well, which also again can, just really prolong the time of when you start tracking food versus when you actually start to see physical progress, is not using a food scale. You can tell me you're tracking your food all day long. If you don't own a food scale, you're not really tracking your food. Hate to break it to you. You do not know the true quantity of your food without a scale. Even if you're using a measuring cup, using the tablespoons and teaspoons, you need to look at the serving size on the nutrition label. So when you turn something on the back and you look at the nutrition label, it says serving size, maybe it says 1 cup of cereal. And then in parentheses, it says 46 grams, or maybe it's 42 grams. I feel like I have that memorized by now. Okay, so it says it'll be either in grams, milliliters, if it's liquid, which by the way, grams and milliliters convert to be the same. So if it's 5 grams, it's 5 milliliters. If it's 10 grams, it's 10 milliliters. So to me, those are the same thing. Or sometimes it'll say ounces. When it comes to ounces, that's how I like to measure my meats. So like, salmon, chicken, any meat sources, anything that's heavy, tuna, I weigh that in ounces. And again, try not to round up. If you are measuring out some ground turkey and you put it on the scale, and you don't put it directly on the scale first, okay? You put it in a bowl or on your plate or on the taco shell or whatever the fuck. Don't put it directly on the scale. Tear it out and use it in ounces. And let's say it's 5.13 ounces. Try to make that as accurate as possible. Try to input 5.13 or whatever that would be, like closest to like 5.25, 5.25 in MyFitnessPal. Okay, so really try to get very specific measurements. And kind of like what I was saying, get used to tearing out the scale with a plate, the bowl, the cup, whatever you're using. A good example I like to use is if you're making coffee in the morning. Let's say you make, iced coffee. So you have the black coffee in the cup. We'll put the cup on the scale. We'll hit tare so that it's at 0. And then we're going to pour some creamer, and we see that the creamer is, let's say 15 milliliters, also known as 1 tablespoon, but I would highly recommend using milliliters because that's going to be so much more accurate. And if you ever want to kind of conduct a study and experiment yourself, pour out a tablespoon and then measure. And I promise it's probably off. It's probably not exactly 15 grams. So it might as well be as specific as you can. It doesn't even take a second. And you don't have to use multiple dishes then. You don't have to wash out these tablespoons or these measuring cups. You just have your iced coffee, and then we're going to hit tare on the scale so that it's 0 milliliters or grams. Pour until you get to 15. Maybe you want a little bit more. Let's pour till we get to 20, 25, 30 milliliters, and then input it that way. Okay, so just getting familiar with using the tare button. And then let's say after you put creamer in your coffee, you want to add, I don't know, some oat milk. This is a very creamy coffee that we're making. You can keep it on. We're hitting tare again. Okay, so it's back to 0. So do you see we're not having to use a lot of dishes? Or let's say you're making tacos, so you put the entire plate on the scale, you hit tare. We're going to put 2 tortillas on. We're going to hit tare. We're going to put 5 ounces of meat on the tortillas. We're going to hit tare. We're going to put 20 grams of sour cream on the tacos. We're going to hit tare. Okay, so we don't need, it's actually a lot easier than you think if you just get familiar with using that tare button and keeping everything on the scale. You don't need to take things on and off and on and off. That's really the most inefficient way to do it. And that's when people are like, I hate tracking. Tracking is so hard. Tracking takes forever. It's just because you haven't really gotten into your flow yet. And also using the scale in negatives. So just like for the coffee example, for the coffee creamer, what we could have done instead is put the entire creamer, the entire jar of creamer on the scale, make sure the lid is off, tare it out, and then pour it until you get to negative 15 grams. So we pour, we put it back on, we see where we're at. Or like this morning, I had an English muffin and I put some jelly on the English muffin. What I did was I put the entire jar of jelly with the cap off on the scale. I hit tare and I scooped it out until it was at negative 19 grams. That's what I put on my thing, on my English muffin. And now I know exactly how much I had rather than trying to guess, because it can make such a big difference, especially when you're using oils or any of these things I'm talking about, creamer, syrup, sauces, all of these things. And speaking of, a huge thing as well, the fourth mistake is just not tracking everything that you're eating. And again, this is all about, yes, having the plan, super cool that you have your calories or you have your macros. These numbers are not going to do anything for you unless that's what you're eating, not just what you're putting into MyFitnessPal or because your coach gave you these numbers, but because that's what you're eating and putting into your body. So you need to be tracking everything that you're eating in order for this to actually be effective. The biggest thing too is not logging your oil or butter that you're cooking with. So let's say in the morning you make eggs and you put olive oil directly onto the pan. Let's first weigh that out. And again, all you have to do is take the top off the oil, have it sitting on the scale just like you would have normally had it sitting on the counter, hit tare so it's at 0. Pour the olive oil, and now we see that it's at negative 15 milliliters, and we input that. And that right there, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. That could be 100 calories in fats and in oils that maybe you're not tracking. And then after weeks or months of tracking your macros and you're not seeing any fat loss, and it's because you're having an additional 100 to 300 calories at each meal because you're not tracking the oil or the butter that you're cooking with. So very important to track everything, including drinks, any liquids like soy sauce or any liquids that you're having at all. Energy drinks, even these things that just have like maybe 10 calories, they add up. Even if it says sugar-free, 0 calories, log it. It adds up. Sauces, if you're using any ketchup, barbecue sauce, I use Chick-fil-A sauce all the time, which is awesome because it makes everything taste so good, like Chick-fil-A sauce. But if I just have my plate that I'm, pouring it onto on top of a scale, I have complete control and I don't need to feel guilty or terrible for having Chick-fil-A sauce because I just log it and I make it fit my macros. But you have to log it. I can't just not count some of these things or any additives, if you put any sugar into your coffee, all the things. Okay. And then also just not tracking while you're eating out. I notice a lot of people who they're perfect when they're tracking in their home. And then as soon as they exit these doors, nothing is tracked, nothing is logged because they don't know how to log when they're eating out. That's really no excuse. Everything at the end of the day is just going to be an estimation. So just estimate whatever you ordered, whatever the name of the dish was that you ordered, just search that in MyFitnessPal. There's a lot of restaurants, and maybe even the restaurant that you ate at is in MyFitnessPal, or maybe just the same dish. Maybe you got eggplant parmesan at Olive Garden, but that's not in the MyFitnessPal, but eggplant parmesan from Carrabba's is. Log it just like that. Let's say you only ate half of the plate. Log only half of it then. Just estimate, let's say you go to grandma's house and grandma has fresh made chocolate chip cookies and you have 2 of them. Well, how am I supposed to log the cookies that she made if it's homemade? You just search homemade chocolate chip cookie. And you might see a huge variance. Maybe one cookie in MyFitnessPal is 600 calories and one cookie in MyFitnessPal is 200 calories. If you have been tracking and logging everything and using that as your education and time to learn about food and eyeballing portion sizes, you'll probably be able to eyeball and be like, okay, grandma's cookies were probably 300 calories each because of the size and even just how I felt after eating them. I felt like I had 600 calories after eating 2, or they were pretty small, maybe they were like 150 calories each and it didn't feel like I had, 600 calories. Okay. So I would just get familiar with tracking while you're out of your home as well. And then also just throughout the day, especially if you're a mom, I know, there's like the kids snacks around, or maybe you have a couple of your boyfriend's fries while you're out, or maybe you have some almonds in the pantry and you just walk by every once in a while and have an almond or 2. Those things add up. So just the best that you can. You don't need to be crazy or OCD about it, but the best that you can, like literally, I say that because I have chocolate covered almonds in my pantry and I have had 2. And I was like, is it worth logging? It is. Just log it. Just look up chocolate covered almond and log 2. It's just that easy. Like, why not be as accurate as possible? Again, these numbers aren't going to do anything unless it's what you're eating and consuming and tracking. So that's that. Those are the 4 common mistakes with tracking macros. If anybody has any questions or anything that hit or was relevant on that call or on this presentation, but also if you guys have any questions about tracking or you have any confusion or whatever about nutrition, ask away.
I'm gonna make a comment just so nobody feels silly. Like I never really used the scale for a long time, and then I used to be one of those people who would like take a whole piece of salmon and I would just like stick it on the top and then I would wipe it down. And then Tara taught me one day, and then my boyfriend came home and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't know there was a tear button on it." So I would just like clean it and wipe it down. So I just want to tell everyone that A, if you want a good laugh tonight, and then B, like don't feel silly. Everybody, start somewhere. And like Tara said, it's once you get in the flow, like I feel like, and I'm no mathematician, I just feel like I know. I'm like, okay, that has 15 milliliters, that has that many grams. Like you kind of just like it becomes second nature, and you just put your bowl on and you tear it out and you do that, and then it just becomes super easy to do. So that's just a funny story, and everyone, you got it.
Love that. Very relevant.
I have like a well, I have a couple questions if that's okay with you guys. um so I don't know if you guys spend a lot of time with your partner, but so my boyfriend works thirds, and when I cook dinner, I will like to track it because he eats what I eat for dinner for lunch on his shift the next night. So we eat the same meals but on different days. So like for instance, the other night I made chicken noodle soup. I made like this homemade recipe. It was really good. And I put in there, like I made my own recipe on my Fitness Pal, and then I put that it serves two people, and literally I ate a whole the exactly half, or tried to, of the soup, and then left the other half for him. And it wasn't a lot. It was not like a giant pot of it, just two servings worth. But I didn't know if sometimes I just throw things together and then I'll just track everything. Like I put this much of the chicken broth this time, and so like I have like 5 different recipes for one thing, but I didn't know if there was an easier way to do that, or an easier way to like split it in half, because I literally will measure the entire thing of soup and then just divide it by 2 and make that my serving. So I don't know if there was an easier way to do that, or if I'm doing that right.
So I just want to confirm. Okay, so is the soup the same soup every time? Because you have 5 different soups that you're making? I
So
just
it's
want to.
not, all the ingredients are the same sometimes. And this soup is just like one example. I do it to a lot of recipes where
Okay.
it's the same thing, but I will make a little bit more, a little bit less, or I didn't like how salty it was, so I use less soy sauce. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like that. So I'll make a new recipe
Got it.
because it's different, you know?
So for seasonings or, sodium in regards to salt, I wouldn't make yourself crazy. If you can save it in my Fitness Pal and you have one recipe and you and Josh typically split it, you can do it half and half, or like say you save some for lunch the next day and you feel like it, like don't drive yourself nuts, right? Like you have it in my Fitness Pal and try to do the best that you can, but I wouldn't like go ahead and do 5 different ones just for different spices. And hopefully I'm answering this correctly. And Tara, you can jump in if you
Yeah.
think.
Well, I agree. I think that's definitely good advice, Sheena. And then I think from how I perceived your question, Journey, was like, is that the correct way to track it? Which is what I would do. Yeah, because if you have the macros and everything for the entire pot of soup, and yeah, you just split it in half, that's exactly what I would do for sure. Because either way, you're gonna end up eating the whole thing or half of it or whatever. So yeah, I would, and I'll do that too. Like I'll create like a whole thing and then just be like, okay, I ate about a fourth of it. So yeah, I think that's the most efficient way to do it.
Okay, cool. That was very helpful, because it's kind of difficult. I feel like I literally will have to like I use like a clear Tupperware, and then pour all the soup in it to measure how much it is. And like literally just divide it in half. And when I divide it in half, I weigh the half to make sure that it's exactly how much, exactly half. So, but I mean, I just was a lot of work. So I didn't know if I was missing something, but it's fine that way too. But I also was wondering, you were talking about complex versus simple carbs, I think. Carbs are fat. So I didn't know, like rice is just easy for me to make, but I don't like just white rice. I put soy sauce in it and like vegetables and chicken and all that kinds of stuff. And so I again will make like a whole recipe and then say that I had like a third of it because I meal prep it and whatnot. So complex versus simple carbs, I don't know the difference. And you were saying that complex carbs are better than simple carbs because they have more nutrients. So can you give some examples of complex carbs versus simple?
Yeah, so simple carb basically is just pure sugar at the end of the day. So something like that would be an example of, I don't know what I just said, simple carbs, if that's what I said. Simple carbs is when it's just pure sugar, like Pop-Tarts, for example, have like, I think it's 80 carbs for the entire, pack of 2 Pop-Tarts. That's a form of simple carbohydrates. Donuts are going to have a lot of carbs. That's simple carbs. So you can kind of catch my drift of pasta. The carbs that kind of got demonized over time, but then because of that, then things like rice and potatoes and bananas, which are all complex carbs, those also kind of got demonized and put into the same category. But yeah, complex carbs are things like that, like whole foods, that are going to have more fiber and more nutrients with them. And again, simple carbs, there's nothing wrong with it. I definitely have my fair share of simple carbs, but want the majority of them to come from whole foods, complex carb sources.
I got you. So rice and pasta, those are complex carbs, good carbs, right?
I don't like to use the terms good and bad, and pasta, yeah. So pasta would be a simple carb, kind of depending on which one, because now they make pasta like out of chickpeas and whatnot. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else? Erin, what are you doing?
To make 300 of these for my kids' craft project at school. They have a winter fair this weekend, so I'm just spooling yarn over here.
Literally a queen.
She does it all.
Erin for president. I had to unmute myself. Sorry.
Truly. Kat, did you have a question?
Not a question, but just something to add that I've learned while tracking. If you can differentiate the brand of something, it's definitely a lot more accurate to log, like especially kind of generic items like almonds or, meat, like what chicken, whatever. If you can find like the exact specific brand, it's going to be a lot more accurate, because there was a long time where I was under eating because I totally screwed up like what I chose to log. And I was under eating like 300 calories a day because I saw that, what I logged was X amount of calories, but I had gotten like the low fat version or whatever version. But yeah, so if you can find the brand, that's also just, I learned through error, is a lot better to log.
Totally. Good advice. Yeah. Yeah. Because even with like pasta, if you, depending on the brand of pasta that you have, or especially for like ground turkey, or ground beef, you can get like the 93 or 96.
That's right. I was getting like 96% lean, but logging like 85% lean, which is like 150, 200 calorie difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then like under eating and didn't even realize it. So
totally. Good advice.
Thanks.
Love that. Anybody else before we pop off?
I will say something that helped me. Sorry, I'm off. I'm like getting ready for bed. Is I have a scale at work, at home, and in my car. So that way, like, it's not really an excuse for me to be like, oh, I don't know. Like, I'm just gonna eyeball it. And it sounds a little ridiculous, but it's so helpful, especially at work. We get like food brought in a lot for company lunches and stuff. So that way I can still be like, okay, I'm eating 6 ounces of chicken. I'm eating, XYZ grams of rice. So that's something that's really helpful. I mean, food scales are so cheap, so it's not like ridiculous, but that's something that's really helped me with my food tracking.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really good advice. I've honestly never even thought about that, like having multiple.
Me either. And I've definitely left mine like one time and I was so pissed, like just because I was traveling and I just wanted it with me. So I might get a second one.
Yeah. Good advice. Also, Alana, you literally have the most beautiful voice and you can totally have a podcast. She said she thought her voice was annoying. And
I feel like I sound like an annoying Valley girl from like California.
love it.
Not allowed to say it again. You have a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Katie, I see you, girl.
Hello.
Hey.
This might be a question that was answered in either that PDF that you guys sent us or in somewhere in the chat. But I just want to make sure that I'm picking my percentage right for the protein, fat, and carbs. Because it wasn't I think with the free version, it wasn't allowing me to like input the amount of protein that I want per day, but it was allowing me to do the percentage. So what was the percentage that you guys recommend?
So the equation that we gave for the 21-day challenge people, there was like a very long and detailed math equation to figure out your overall calories.
Right.
You got that number?
Yeah, I got that. And then I changed the percentage to kind of match as close to the protein like goal I need to as possible. And then the rest of it, I kind of just filled in. So.
Gotcha. So your protein goal would be ideally 1 pound or 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of desired body weight. And then for the 21-day challenge people, we're not tracking carbs and fats at all. We're just tracking because the remainder of your calories will come from carbs and fats, right? So the overarching, let's say you had 2,000 calories and 120 grams were coming from protein. The rest will automatically come from fats and carbs. And this is how I coach most of my clients anyway. For the first like 6 weeks ish, we just focus on those two numbers. And sometimes that's all you need to see physical results. And at the end of the day, the percentage of your fats and carbs, that's something that we can, like definitely dive deeper on. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing is kind of just preference. Like if you notice that you just love fattier foods, you eat a lot of avocado, you love salmon, that's me all day. You love olive oil, then maybe we have higher fats and a little bit lower carbs, or vice versa. And if you're bodybuilding and focusing on building muscle or focusing on having more energy throughout the day, being more carb heavy will probably be your best choice. But yeah, just focus on the calories and protein.
Okay, thank you.
Cool, no problem.
I have 2 more questions. Does everybody? I still have the free version of MyFitnessPal. Does anyone else? Everybody? Oh, a lot of people.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. Sheena, you have the paid version, and Tara, you guys, right? Or no? Yeah. What's the like main difference between the two?
The barcode.
Which to me is a game changer. I just scan, like I pretend that I'm like at Walmart and I'm a checkout lady. It's so fast, it's easy. I know. I guess you pick and choose your battles, and that's just one that
the barcode used to be like free.
Mm-hmm.
Made it
Really?
faster.
Yeah. The good old days, it used to be free, but I did hear that apparently if you make your address, maybe make a new MyFitnessPal account or whatever, and if you have like the Canada version, then the barcode is free.
But that's what my client Felix told me. So I will have somebody has to check that out and see.
Yeah,
I'm gonna see.
somebody do that.
I love free things. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's your job journey, and you need to report back.
Wait. Sorry. Felix.
Yes.
Talk about
Felix.
wait, hold on, let me undo this. Hold on, let me
Felix, how you've never been on a call until Kelsey joined the challenge.
Yeah, what the hell?
Okay.
What the heck?
Talk about, I don't know if anybody can hear you, but talk about the barcode thing on MyFitnessPal.
Oh, if you go into the settings, go to location settings and change it to UK and not US, you don't have to pay for the barcode.
Oh,
Let's
So
go.
you can scan anything without having to worry about paying for it.
Dub
you have to be on every team call from here on out, Felix.
Is
Which
it
is-
in the
I can't hear a word you said.
setting of the app?
Sorry, I
Oh,
can't hear you guys. Yeah.
I can probably.
Yeah, in the MyFitnessPal app.
It's in the app.
Yeah, the MyFitnessPal app to track food. He said go into settings and put it to UK version.
I will write it in the Discord for everyone.
Yes, please. I have another question. Does anybody? I drink a lot of coffee because I just work a lot, but who doesn't? I feel like, especially a bunch of like boss babes, But I remember on a coaching call, I think we did like a month or two ago with Janice. She talked about cacao, and I don't know what the heck that is. I tried to like look it up. I have no idea where to find it. Is it liquid? Is it food? Is it a breakfast thing? So does anyone else drink or consume cacao?
Katie, take it away.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So ceremonial cacao is like my gateway into spirituality besides yoga and other things. But ceremonial cacao is basically 100% raw cacao that, well, some of it's roasted, but it's just 100% cacao. And there's no added sweeteners, there's no added fats or anything. And it contains all the nutrients from the chocolate, from the cacao. So it's much better for you, but it's also more activating. And it has a compound called theobromine, and that's the like active compound of the fruit. And it's similar to caffeine. It's a cousin of caffeine chemically. But whereas caffeine gets you into your head space, cacao gets you into your heart space. So it's active, but it's a different kind of feeling. And it's usually drank in a ceremonial setting, guided by somebody who's done them before or trained in it. And yeah, so there's ways you can get cacao. Where do you live? Are you in St. Pete?
No, I live in Michigan.
Oh, where in Michigan?
Just literally geographical center of the mitten, St. Louis.
Oh, okay. I'm from Bloomfield Hills. That's funny.
Oh, nice.
So anyway, so you can order it online. That's probably going to be your best option because I don't know what places sell it around where you are. I can send you some good options. That usually comes in like a block, like a solid block of chocolate. And it's like a big block. Or sometimes there'll be smaller ones. You can also find it as like a powdered form. I personally prefer the like solid block because that contains the fat. And when you have the fat, that's where a lot of the nutrients are also.
So
it's
then what do you do with the block?
So you chop it up. So you can kind of like actually I'm gonna get one.
Okay, great. I love this. I'm just trying to do better because I drink way too much caffeine and then I'm anxious all day long because I've like 200 milligrams of caffeine in me.
Yeah, I would
So
try.
are you, on your check-in, you're not telling me that you're having this much?
It's not every day. It's just been this week because of the unexpected junk that
I'm just
happened.
calling you out because you called yourself out. We're gonna talk about this
100%.
separately.
And I actually bought cold brew like because I was going to Starbucks, but I'm not going to Starbucks anymore for $10 coffee. So I bought like bottles of cold brew that you can just like make at home. So I've done that all week. I've had cold brew all week, but then I was so busy that I didn't log it. And so yes, I've had a lot of caffeine this week.
Are you ready to see the cacao?
Yes, let me see the block.
Okay, I've got a bunch. I was just in Guatemala and I got a couple different kinds. So this is like an example of a block and it's like rock solid. These are cacao nibs. So these are what's inside the like center of the bean. So they're like inside the casing. And that's usually what's then chopped up and put into the block. This is like an actual like block. Like if I were to take this out, it would look like a huge chocolate bar. Like it's amazing. And then you can also get it in like a bag that looks like ground up coffee. So this is like easier to make because you can just scoop and go. But yeah, I can send you more information.
Yes. Oh my God, please send me all the things. Send me links, how to order it online. What do you do with the blocks? Do you like chop it up and
Oh yeah, so you basically like I would take a block and there's two different doses. There's a ceremonial dose and then there's like a meditation dose. The meditation dose is smaller, usually about 20 grams, and then a ceremonial dose is about 40. So it really just depends on how you're using it. And you would basically just start like grab a knife, put this on a cutting board, and you start chopping bits of it off and it flakes into a powder. And then you take the powder and then you put that into, I prefer using a blender. Some people use a pot on a stove and they add hot water to it or like kind of melt it into the water. I prefer a blender because I like how it gets creamy, and then I'll add nut butter, like I'll add cashew butter, I'll add a little pinch of salt, I'll do some maple syrup or honey, I'll add even like different tea, and cacao will enhance the flavor and the benefit of whatever you put with it. So like if you want to enhance your dream space, lucid dreaming, I'll put like blue lotus tea, and then that cacao will just like amplify it. Or if you want better like blood sugar control or hormone balancing, you could do maca with cinnamon and different things. So there's unlimited, endless potential with cacao. And you can tell I'm very excited about it.
I have a question about cacao. Is this good cacao or is this just not?
So I like Four Sigmatic, just in general as a company. I haven't tried their cacao mix. I don't think that it's ceremonial grade though.
It says chill.
I think it's probably because there might be some reishi or
Yeah, it's like with reishi mushroom.
yeah. So I think the chill part is the mushroom, but it's just a taste of cacao.
Okay.
So if you want like
I like cacao nibs. Those are
Yeah,
good
like-
with yogurt and stuff.
yeah, if you want like the actual like full body spiritual feeling of having cacao, like 100%, you got to get this stuff.
Okay, that's so interesting to learn. Thank you.
I love that.
I'm gonna do a whole course on cacao, I think. It's gonna be so fun.
You're
You
so well
should.
versed. I love that. Thank you.
That was amazing.
Yeah, that was amazing. Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Also, Tara, sorry, that tip, I did not know that.
which
I
one?
I have the calculator on me all the time, or my phone on me all the time, like calculating the tear thing. I had no idea. I'm always doing calculations, like subtracting my bowl, like, oh my God, that just saved me. I just did it, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh my God, I'm so glad because you like track everything too. Like you're so
Yeah.
good at tracking. So props to your math skills.
Hopefully they're good.
Yeah. Well,
Well, at least now I don't have to worry about it. Oh my God, that was such a lifesaver.
good. I'm glad.
All time.
That's so funny. Well, yay. Yeah. Katie posted everything about cacao in the group chat. Loved this little bonding moment. And yeah,
Selfie before we go. Everyone get your camera out.
put your camera on. Let's all take your phone out. If you
Okay.
take a picture and you post it and you tag frequency and whatnot, that goes to your points and the challenge, and it just helps us. So why not take your phone out, screenshot. 1, 2, 3. Wait, this is so funny. Why do balloons pop
The
up?
balloons.
People?
I need to talk about the balloons. That's why I stopped. Journey just had balloons, and Katie, did you guys just put those balloons on there on purpose?
And Michelle, is it when you do this?
When you use this, it's like it makes a V for victory. And then, well, it should pop up.
Oh my God, because there it is. Because we did that call with all the new challenges, and me and Tara, I got tagged from Kelsey, and I'm like, why are there balloons on my face? And I wrote Tara, and she's like, that's something that would happen to my grandma. And I'm like, I did not click balloons. I don't know what happened. That's so funny.
Oh my God, I was on a call with my therapist last night, and I'm like, balloons are popping up, and he's like, oh, you didn't like change the setting on your computer, because I guess if you don't change the setting, then you do all these different things, and it's like emojis pop up.
Interesting.
So funny. So funny. Maybe we need a different gang sign. I don't know.
Maybe something else will pop up. I don't know.
We'll create like a frequency thing. Oh wait, that's kind of cute. Okay. All right. We're getting carried away. All right. You guys have a lovely evening. This was such a great call. I'll post the recording, and yeah, I'll see you next week. Same day, same time.
Bye.
Bye.